Let me begin by saying I think a debate over Obamacare, a debate over health care is good for the nation, because I think, as many Americans understand, the United States today is the only country in the industrialized world that does not guarantee health care as a right to all of our people. And today, before the initiation of Obamacare, we have 48 million people who have no health insurance. And I would tell my good friend from Texas that the state of Texas, I think, ranks first in the country in the percentage of their people under 65 who have no health insurance. 1 out of 4. George W. Bush was president for 8 years. Where were the ideas about how we provide health care to all of our people? And it's not just 48 million people today who have no health insurance. There are many more who have huge deductibles, which prevent them from going to the doctor. They have high co-payments. And at the end of the day, Mr. President, in this dysfunctional health care system that we have, we are spending almost twice as much per capita on health care as do the people of any other nation, many of which have better health care outcomes than we do in terms of life expectancy, infant mortality, and the treatment of a number of diseases. In my view, Obamacare is a step forward, but we have got to make significant improvements. And that's a good discussion and debate to have. But one thing is absolutely certain, is you do not hold the American people hostage by threatening to shut down the government, or for the first time in the history of our country, not paying our bills and bringing this country and perhaps the entire world into a major financial crisis. That is what you don't do. Obamacare was passed with 60 votes in the Senate. It was passed in the House. It was signed by the President. Obamacare was challenged in the Supreme Court. Supreme Court ruled it constitutional. There was an election a year ago on this very issue, one of the major issues in the campaign. And the Republican candidate said, let's defund Obamacare. He lost the election. Republicans lost seats in the Senate. They lost seats in the House. And that's what democracy is about. What democracy is not about is a handful of members of the House of Representatives, extreme right-wing Republicans, saying if we do not get our way, we are prepared to punish tens of millions of Americans. Yeah, we lost the election. Yeah, we lost seats in the House and the Senate. But we are prepared to bring this government down. We are prepared to cause perhaps a major global financial crisis unless we get our way. That is not what the American system is about. That's not what democracy is about. So if we want to debate about how we improve Obamacare, good debate. Let's have it. But let's not tell men and women in the United States Armed Forces who today are putting their lives on the line to defend us that they're not going to get paid. Let us not tell police officers here in Washington and elsewhere they may not get paid. Let's not tell working families who take their little kids into Head Start so they can then go out to work that program may be killed. Let's not tell senior citizens who are on the Meals on Wheels program, who can't leave their homes, who depend upon a meal. Let's not punish them because you got a small number of extreme right-wingers who want to get their way at the expense of millions and millions of people. So, Mr. President, yeah, let's have a debate. Continue the debate. Obamacare will provide health insurance to 20 million more Americans. Good step forward. 28 million more remain uninsured. Many of the trade unions are concerned about provisions, and I share those views. Let's change that. Let's improve it. But let us not shut down the United States government and make us look like fools throughout the entire world because a handful of right-wing extremists are so determined to try to destroy this president. Mr. President, Senator Cruz was on the floor the other day, and I appreciate anyone. I was on the floor a couple of years ago for 8.5 hours. He was on the floor for 21 hours. That's tough, and I respect anyone who can do that. And I disagree with most of what he did say. But what he did say one thing which I think was right, and that is that we need a serious debate about fundamental issues. And, Mr. President, what I believe very strongly is that this debate about Obamacare is kind of small change, nickel and dime, compared to where many of our right-wing Republicans really want to go. And it is important that we have that debate because I think the American people are not understanding the role that multi-billionaires like the Koch brothers, worth some $70 billion, pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into the Tea Party, really what this debate is about. And it's a lot more than Obamacare. And let me just tell you some of the issues that are out there that we should be debating. Senator Cruz was right. The Texas Republican Party platform calls for an immediate and orderly transition away from Social Security. In other words, they want to kill Social Security. That's a good debate. Let's have it. How many of the American people think that we should end Social Security and go back to the days of the 1920s when the elderly people were the poorest people in America? That is what right-wing Republicans want to do. Let us have that debate. Republicans in Texas, and again, their view represents a whole lot of folks here in the Senate and in the House. They want to privatize veterans' health care. I'm the chairman of the Veterans Committee, and I will tell you very strongly that the veterans of America want to improve and expand the VA health care system, not privatize it. Let's have that debate. Mr. President, the Republican Party in Texas, and again, reflecting the views of, I believe, a strong majority of Republicans here in Washington, they believe, and I quote from the Texas platform, "We believe the minimum wage should be repealed," end of quote. Minimum wage today is $7.25 an hour. You got millions and millions of workers who are trying to get by on $8 an hour, $9 an hour. I think the minimum wage should be significantly expanded, raised. Republicans, many Republicans say, let's abolish the minimum wage. Do you know what that means? It means in Maine, in high unemployment areas, in Detroit, in high unemployment areas, in Vermont, in high unemployment areas, what the employer will say, look, there ain't no jobs around here. You want to work? Here's $3 an hour. But we got the government out of your lives. There's no longer a minimum wage. They consider that freedom. I consider that wage slavery. Let's have the debate about whether we should abolish the minimum wage, abolish Social Security. The Ryan budget, Republican budget in the House, a couple of years ago wanted to end Medicare as we know it, create a voucher system. Here's a check, $8,000. You got cancer, good luck. Here's your $8,000 check. Go to the doctor, go to the hospital. You'll get good care for about 2 days, and then we don't know what happens to you. But we're going to end Medicare as we know it. We're going to make devastating cuts in Medicaid. We're going to give more tax breaks to the rich at a time when the rich are doing phenomenally well and the middle class is collapsing. Let's have that debate. That is a good debate to have. The other thing, Mr. President, it's very interesting. There was a CBS New York Times poll that came out the other day, absolutely consistent with every other poll that I have seen. And what these polls do is they say to the American people, what do you think are the most important issues facing America? What should Congress be focusing on? You know what? They're not talking about health care. They're not talking about Obamacare. They're not talking about taxes. What the American people are saying is we need jobs. Real unemployment today is close to 14%. Youth unemployment is higher. We need to create millions of jobs. Where is the debate? We bring forward ideas about rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure, creating jobs, moving to a more energy-efficient society, creating jobs. Where are their ideas on jobs? They don't have any. All they could say is let's give more tax breaks to billionaires, 1 out of 4 corporations doesn't pay any taxes. Let's give more tax breaks to the rich and the corporations. Trickle-down economics has not worked. Mr. President, what the American people also understand is that most of the new jobs that are being created are low-wage jobs. Often they're part-time jobs, a trend, by the way, that has been going on for many, many years, well before Obamacare. Major employers didn't need to figure out that if you hire people for 25, 28 hours a week, you don't have to provide them with benefits. Let's discuss about how we create decent wages in this country.
The Senator's yielded time has expired.
Last point I would make. Maybe the most important discussion we should have is ending and overturning this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decisions, which give the billionaires in this country the ability to control what goes on here in the United States Congress, forcing members of the House and Senate to raise unbelievable sums of money. So there's a lot to be debating about, but one thing we should not be debating about is shutting down the United States government in order to achieve a narrow political goal. With that, I yield the floor.